Spoilers ahead. This is your one and only warning. Leave now or forever hold your peace, because we're shooting blindly in these streets. And now, a Japan Time Podcast special presentation.
What is going on, everybody? Rogers Base here, and welcome to a very special spoiler roundtable discussion for Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Future Redeemed. This is the new story expansion for Xenoblade Chronicles 3. If you have not already played it, go play it right now. It's very quick to get through. It is, and I think all of us agree, an excellent conclusion to the Xenoblade franchise. And so we certainly don't want to be the ones to spoil you on all the stuff that happens. And believe me, there is a lot that happens in this DLC. So joining me for this roundtable discussion, we have McDareth.
What's up, everyone? Super excited and very happy with how this all played out. It was better than I could have imagined.
We have Coast.
You know, I just gotta say this. Monolith, a massive dub. You know, let's get a round of applause real quick. Who forget introducing me? Let's give a round of applause to Monolith right there. There we go.
And last but not least, of course, we have the one and only greatest commentator of all time, Viram. What is going on, Viram?
No, I don't know if I can quite own that claim, but what I can say is I'm feeling full of beans, lads. I'm feeling full of beans.
Full of beans. Lovely, lovely. So yeah, I mean, where do you guys want to get started? Because there is a lot of stuff to go over here. I think like maybe general impressions first, how you guys felt about it as you were playing through it, or any highlight moments you want to touch on first.
It's like, overall, I'm just so impressed with how Monolith takes whatever they work on. Like, even from Xenoblade, base Xenoblade 2 to Torna, you could see how they realized some things that didn't work and changed how those flowed and how Torna worked. And then from base Xenoblade 3, the Future Redeemed, they did it again. And it's just like, this studio is so good at looking at what they've made and iterating on it. So it makes me super excited whatever they make next, because I think it's going to be crazy with how good this game plays.
I think is the best Xenoblade experience you can ever get, because not only did it add on and fix elements from Xenoblade 3 itself to make immersion and gameplay just feel smooth, exciting, and fun, but the experience and growth that Monolith has had over the years making all of these games, and the story leading up to all of this and this DLC is just absolutely phenomenal. Like, there's no like I can't express like how good of an experience this is to play with all of the things coming out this year. Like, I think I saw like a tweet that Future Redeemed is the highest rated non-re-release or HD version of a game this year.
Wow.
Which is insane.
Especially considering all the stuff that's coming out this year, right? I mean, we already had RE4 remakes,
RE4,
Tears of the Kingdom's coming out this
but
week.
wait. But both of those are re-releases, so they weren't counted against it.
Yeah, I know, but
Right, but yeah.
that's what it's being compared to right now, and it's honestly it might be better. Like this is really, really good.
I will say, touching on what you were mentioning with the fixes that the game had, right? Like, I think I have made it very clear that I was very disappointed with the ending bit of Xenoblade 3. Like, overall, I did enjoy that game, and I think anyone who watched my playthrough knew, like, I still had a really good time with it. I still think Chapter 5 is, like, some of the best of anything that's ever been in a Xenoblade game. I love it. But I feel like by the end of the game, a lot of things in it really started to wane on me, whether that's, like, the repetitive dialogue, whether that is, you know, being kind of underwhelmed by the final villain, not really having that fleshed out. There were just a lot of things that I kind of felt like, man, I expect so much of Monolith, right? As you guys have already said, I feel like they are the best developer that Nintendo has. And I think like they always manage to top themselves. And for me personally, while I loved the story of the core cast in 3, and I was happy to see that grow, I think ultimately like there was a lot left to be desired, even down to the environment music, right? Like I think when you play through Xenoblade 1 and Xenoblade 2, you have these really amazing bombastic themes. Then going into Xenoblade 3, it's a lot more it seems more atmospheric. It seems more Breath of the Wild-esque. And whereas Future Redeemed goes right back to that classic like 1 and 2 feel with the really epic environmental themes, like what you get in the mountains, even what you get in like that first area in the woods, I think is just like beautiful, beautiful music. And then of course that final boss sequence, like the way it all sort of culminates with that fight. To me, going into base game 3, that type of fight is what I expected for the conclusion of the franchise and for this game that was touted as the culmination of 1 and 2, right? The wrap up of the Klaus saga. And Future Redeemed delivered on all fronts, and I'm so unbelievably happy about that. Vera, go ahead. You didn't get a chance to share your thoughts.
Well, the main thing that I was just gonna kind of talk a little bit about the gameplay and what they did really well in terms of like the exploration loop in terms of this game, because one of the things that I think they handled really well, and this is an improvement not only on like Xenoblade Chronicles 3 but also on stuff like Torna as well, is they made it so that the rewards for doing all of these little things and engaging the world in a lot of different ways felt very meaningful. You know, building up the Enemypedia and the Collectopedia, having both of those in this game at all, just going around and finding all of the little affinity kits and art kits, defeating uniques, it all kind of, especially if you're playing on harder difficulties, it all really felt like meaningful content to engage with, not just for the sake of completion's sake, but in terms of just being able to make your party stronger. And I really like that. I think it's a difficult line to draw because, you know, if you go a little bit too heavy on that, it feels like that becomes mandatory, even if it's technically not. But I think they managed to do a really, really good job having that whole affinity goal system in the game.
Yeah. The affinity goal system really is like what keeps me going back to it. I mean, I think I'm gonna 100% this. I don't know when I'm going to do it. I think I'm probably pretty close right now. Like I did a lot of the side quests and a lot of the side content as I was just playing through the game for the first time. But yeah, it just the gameplay loop, like you mentioned, is just so satisfying in this. And I think it's also made better because I really love the core cast of this. I think as much as I love the core cast of the base game as well, right?
Matthew's I think
awesome.
one of the best MCs ever, because not only is he lovable in his personality and being fun to play as well, but his values come out so profoundly in this. Like, he's so well versed in how he represents himself compared to a lot of the other characters, and it might be a little unfair to compare with the shorter amount of time you have with displaying your character, where you have more time in like 1, 2, and 3 and stuff like that. But
sure,
I don't know. Matthew's just, I love him. He's phenomenal.
Agreed.
Yeah, I feel like they definitely took advantage of the length of the game to very much hone in on who he is, what he's about, and he does not stray from that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and A is a great addition, mainly because like I think she adds to the plot.
I actually looked that up because people were telling me about that during the stream. A is considered she, Alpha is considered he, and Ontos the core itself is essentially has both male and female parts. So it's meant to be like this split, which I thought was so cool, right? To play on the idea of like with Pyra and Mithra, right? You have the two halves of Numa. And I always did kind of wonder, like, is that the case with all these cores? Are they splitting each other? Are there basically two halves
Roger,
of Roger,
we will get into that later on.
I guess so. That's true. Yeah, we won't do a full character dive.
Yeah.
But I thought that
Roger probably has not even seen that yet, actually.
No, I haven't. I mean, I just beat the game yesterday, so I haven't really done a full deep dive. But yeah,
and you know what? Speaking of characters, let's not beat around the bush, man. Like, let's
Niall.
That's. I was gonna talk about Rex and Shoals, but
what...
if you want to talk about Niall, man, if you want to talk about Niall,
I just love Niall's design a lot. I liked her from the very get-go.
You are horny.
Look.
You are a horny man.
No. They knew what they were doing with her. They
exactly.
realized
knew what were
they
doing.
realized that they had the winning formula with the silver haired cat girls. You know,
Right,
it worked with
right.
Mio, it worked with
Honestly,
Mia, and then they thought, you know what? Let's make one with big boobs this time.
Bro, when they first showed her, I remember there's a specific cutscene where I was streaming and I was just sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, bro, they modeled those so well, man. Like,
And of course, like you said, I mean, Rex and Shulk as well. Like the glow up that Rex had in this game. The fact that they made me really like Rex as a
Like
character.
this game for so many people
Oh.
has made Rex so much better than his
He's a
own
giga
game.
fan, dude. He really is.
I think it's really funny because like as somebody that really likes Rex in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which I know is a bit of a
I mean, I'm there with you.
not
I
the
didn't
most-
mind Rex.
I'm with you as
Yeah.
well. I like Rex. Yeah.
not the most common opinion in general, but seeing this version of Rex, the older version of Rex, I think what's so enjoyable to me is how true to himself he's remained. Like
Yeah.
this is exactly how Rex would be, 30 odd years down the line. I don't know how many years exactly, but like he feels like an experienced, aged version of himself, but he's still very much like
it's the perfect representation of the influences that he's had growing
Yes.
up with like
Yeah.
Zeke and Pyra, Mithra, and Nia and all of that. Like it's all added up into this one adult matured Rex that is still the same, yet there's also this new side to him that is also not only adding on so much more to him, but it's also just as endearing as he was in, at least for me personally, and I guess for you guys too, in Xenoblade 2.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. The line when he's talking to Glimmer, I think in chapter 4, and she asks him why he's fighting, like, it's none of his business or whatever, and he says to keep the smiles on people's faces. I thought, this is
our boy.
Rex.
Yeah, right.
It's him.
Yeah, exactly. And I think along the same lines too, I was also really impressed with Shulk. I feel like Shulk again feels like the direct continuation of that character where we left off with Future Connected. I think, seeing his interactions with Nicole, I also really liked as well, like the father-son moments of them bonding over the gear. That mind-blowing revelation with Riku, like Riku showing up during that scene as well.
Yeah.
I feel like on the whole, I've always liked Shulk, right? I always thought he was one of my favorite protagonists. I just think he's a lot of fun. And again, it feels like the perfect continuation of his arc. You really understand more of like what he was going with the stuff with the Liberators as well. And I think the choice to have Shulk and Rex in the party alongside Matthew and A, alongside both of their children, right? To have Glimmer as the child of Rex and Pyra, and you've also got Nicole as the child of Shulk and Fiora. It's like by the time you get to the fight with Alpha at the end, it really makes for the perfect final party for a Xenoblade game.
Yeah.
Right?
What
You have,
I love about it
everything represented
is
there.
it's a perfect representation of like how I brought up with Rex and how the influence of people around you mold who you are, because like with Rex he had Zeke and Nia and all them, and
So
then for
clearly
Shulk,
Shulk is Dunban too.
Melia,
Yeah.
Fiora, like you can see elements like sprinkle every now and then not only that, but on top of that you have Glimmer and Nicole being influenced by Rex and Shulk, and it's so well written. I feel like like with Glimmer, like specifically, I really didn't like her at first with how like sassy and standoffish she was, but over time, with Rex and Nicole especially, she really grew on me, and it just like I think that's a good theme that you could probably bring up in this game is how people can make a major impact on who you become in life.
And it's funny because Glimmer and Nicole, I feel like they play off each other really nicely too. You've got that archetype similar to Mithra that Glimmer plays initially, even though she looks more like Pyra. And then Nicole, he is little mini Shulk.
Yeah.
And I think I was always kind of interested in what it would be like if those characters met, right? And you get the little bit of the scene at the end of Pyra's Smash trailer, right, where she talks to Shulk, and I remember thinking like, oh, this would be really cool for a game eventually. And you kind of get a little bit of that with the two of them here.
I'm gonna be honest. Even by the end of the game, I don't think I was a particularly big fan of Glimmer's character. I feel like, for me, it felt like they were trying to capture Mithra a little bit too much without understanding what was really good about Mithra in Xenoblade 2, where it's like, she's very heavily influenced by those around her. She goes through a lot of growth. She becomes a lot more she becomes generally a lot kind of kinder, I feel. And not only that, but she does exude that kind of confidence and sass. But I feel like with Mithra, it makes sense because we know how strong Mithra is, and she demonstrates that all the time. But with Glimmer, like, I feel like this kind of personality would fit a character who is not a healer, is rather like, a big, like a powerhouse kind of woman.
Sure.
And this kind of like, it was a bit of a shame for me because I adore Glimmer's design. I like how I really enjoy how she plays in the game. She's a very fun healer to play. But yeah, she was the one character that kind of left me a little bit underwhelmed. The rest of the cast though, I really enjoy.
I'm glad
I'll
you
agree
bring
on that
up,
point.
though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you bring that up about how she plays too, because I think that goes back to the gameplay a little bit too. I think we talked about this on the Xenoblade, the first Xenoblade discussion that we did after 3, and how I had mentioned I really didn't switch between characters all that much in the original base game. I kind of just stuck to my main few. In this one, I was constantly cycling. I mean, I had a lot of fun with everybody's playstyle. It instantly clicked with me in a way I feel like the characters in 3 didn't. I think the system with both fusions and then also having the unity attacks also made a lot more sense to me as well than the Ouroboros stuff that was in 3. Like obviously it's pretty much the same. There's very few differences. But on the whole, I feel like it was easier to understand the way that they laid things out in this, where I feel like within the 10, 15 hours I played of this, I felt very, very proficient in the combat by the ending in a way that I didn't 80 hours into Xenoblade 3.
I'm gonna
Do
be
you
honest
think
with you.
that
I
is
was
in
just
part?
spamming double spinning edge, bro. I was just
You
spamming
could
double
do that
spinning
too.
edge.
You could do
Do you?
that.
But do you also think that is in part due to the fact that this game obviously uses the foundation of Xenoblade Chronicles 3 and you had
Oh,
that prior
definitely.
experience?
Definitely. I think having played through 3 certainly helped me, but I think it's streamlined just as everything
Yeah.
else is in this DLC. I think everything
Mm.
is like perfected and streamlined. And on one hand, I'm kind of upset, right? Because like this is the end of the Klaus saga. So I worry that like this all kind of gets thrown out the window for whatever Monolith chooses to do next. But I hope it doesn't, because I would play 100 games with the exact play style that Future Redeemed had.
See, this is where like I'm kind of conflicted because I enjoyed 3's gameplay mechanics a lot in combat, but when I got to Future Redeemed, I was like, okay, this is really fun, but I feel like I really only need to use one character at a time. Like not even you can just ignore like Rex crit being incredibly busted in this, but it just felt like you didn't really have to switch between characters in this because of the Unity system and how streamlined it was. Where when I went back to Xenoblade 3 because I didn't finish the Masha DLC and I wanted to do challenge battles and stuff, I I really didn't like going back to that gameplay because it felt way slower compared to Future Redeemed, where I had to cycle through characters more often. Using Ouroboros felt way slower instead of using fusion arts and only fusion arts, where you had to go with the Ouroboros arts and all of that stuff. Um, but I enjoyed I enjoyed Future Redeem's gameplay a lot more, even though it was, I feel, a lot simpler. Like the Unity attacks were a huge bonus with the cool animations and stuff like that, but it felt like I could just turn my brain off a lot and just have more fun with it.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of a common, not really an issue, but almost like a, I'm trying to think the right thing, almost like a curse of Monolith Salt, is because whatever they make next makes what they made before feel much worse to go back to. Like after playing Xenoblade 2, I definitely cannot go back to Xenoblade 1. After playing through 3, can't really go back to 2, and now this compared to 3, it's like they improve so much, but the formula is so similar, it's hard to go back and not have the improvements they put in.
So so it might be better to just like scrap it all and then start from something new with whatever comes next, right? Xeno, I don't know, Spear, Xeno, I don't know, whatever they're gonna do.
I think I'm pretty sure they're sticking with Xenoblade just because in Japan it's just called Xenoblade.
Right, it's
unless they
Chronicles,
just drop
right?
Xenoblade entirely, but
I do wonder though, because maybe this gets more into story stuff that we might want to touch on a little later because there's other things that we could still talk about.
Yeah.
I do wonder if it is going to be a new Xeno thing though, because it's clear from the end of this game that there are Xeno Saga and Xenogears connections.
Even X.
Well,
yeah, and X as well. So I do, and now I have not played Xenogears, right? So that's the one that I can't really speak on.
Game.
But Xeno Saga,
fun game.
I have heard Matthew is essentially the character from Xenogears.
I wouldn't go that far, but
I've heard there's a lot of similarities between the character, though, to the point where it came up a lot in my live chat.
There's a few, but a lot of people are really stretching, wanting to make a lot of connections between older games to the new one, just for the fact of
Saga and X are pretty clearly in this, though.
Yeah.
Like I think,
like there's straight up direct references from those games, but like I mentioned it earlier on my stream, but people on Twitter were saying, "Oh, Matthew has a very similar idle animation to Faye in Xenogears when he's jumping around and getting ready to punch people." Like
what I was talking about, right?
Bro, it's just it's a idling animation. It's not that deep. Like I get wanting to be excited about possible references and connections from older games, but sometimes y'all are just like reaching sometimes.
I agree with the Gears thing then, how you laid it out, but to me it is very clearly connecting to Saga by the end. Like I'm without a shadow of a doubt that shot of the Earth, and then Cosmo, like that is for sure a connection to Saga. And obviously straight up. Cosmos was a core in 2. This and Bandai Namco is in the copyright information for the game. So if you click like the start button on the main menu and it pulls up stuff, it directly says like Xenosaga and Xenosaga characters property of Bandai Namco.
You even saw them in the credits, like a special thing.
At the end of 3, there's like a dialogue that says Cosmos will be like a blue shining something in space. Like it's like there's a thing in Xenosaga 3 that specifically explains what you see at the very end of Future Redeemed.
Right. With the interconnected Earth.
Yeah.
Right. Which is
oh my god.
Which is
that dude.
Beginning.
Dude, I went back. I watched your video of
my god,
chapter 5. Man, you were going crazy.
I was melting. Like the Vector Industries logo was there, right? You get what appears to look like Los Angeles, right? Or like it's similar to New LA, what you see in X, but it's the Earth that was there in Klaus's world. Then you get the name drop of Dimitri. They talk about the Philadelphia class ship. Like there's so
they
much
talk about
here.
Project Exodus.
Right. So if you played any of those prior games, you're going to recognize a lot of this. Now, again, I didn't hit on everything because it's been years since I watched my buddy play through the Saga games, and I've never played Gears myself. So again, there's stuff that like went above me. But when you really like deep dive into that radio sequence at the beginning of 5, if you're like a hardcore fan of the series, there is so much there for you. And again, like tying it all together, getting to actually walk through that version of Earth is something I never thought we were going to do in the Xenoblade Saga. So to throw it in the final chapter of the final bit of the saga, just before a fight with Elvis, like, dude, it was just, it was amazing. It was the best thing I could have possibly wanted.
Like at the very tail end of wrapping up this saga, they give the fans what they've been asking for years, and it's just like the smallest bit too.
I was like chilling, camera off, just chilling the stream, got to that point and then went to like normal Earth, it's like, okay, wait, I need to go turn my camera on. What is this?
The only annoying part for me for that cutscene was I was genuinely trying to pay attention to what Niall and Matthew were talking
And
about.
the kids were saying too,
And then there's just the radio, and it's like, damn, like chat saying there's some stuff I gotta listen to on the radio. I gotta pay attention to 2 different dialogues now. But
Yeah, see, because I haven't played Saga or Gears. I haven't played any of those games. So all of this stuff with the radio went over my head. So I was just tuned in to what Niall and Matthew was saying, and
no, that's an easy mistake.
yeah, and honestly, like they're saying stuff that you would expect them to be saying. You know, a lot of it is just Matthew properly convincing Niall to do the right thing.
Roger, something I'm shocked that you didn't really pick up on when I was watching your video was at the end when before the comet and like the merging of the 2 worlds.
Yes.
They showed the exact same shot at the ending of Xenoblade 1 with Jupiter and the moon. It's the exact same shot.
Oh, it is? Okay. I was like, the shot of Jupiter is like interesting, but I couldn't pick up on it.
That until you just said it just
when
now.
I was streaming it, I remember I streamed Xenoblade 1 previously, and I remember taking a screenshot because I was like, oh damn, that's a really cool like shot. I should screenshot that. And then I'm like at the end of Future Redeemed, and I see that shot, and I'm like, wait a minute. Press the home button, go to my screenshots, I see it, and I start freaking out. I'm like, oh my god, what a callback.
Oh my god, too. And like while we're talking about the final chapter, that alpha fight, it, like I said, going back to the issues with base game 3, I know we talked about this. I hated the Z fight. I hated that you couldn't skip the cutscene in the beginning again, that it had 2 phases.
The chain attack music.
They fixed the chain attack music for it. They made it where you could skip through the dialogue if you lose. Like, they did such a good job with that final sequence. And again, like, I could not ask for a better final boss to wrap up this saga. When the music kicks in and you get the classic chanting and the singing, like,
yeah, I
love the Use Dance
highly
as Steven
recommend.
remixed it. That was so cool.
Go YouTube, right, the alpha battle music, the beginning and the end version of it, right, where it cuts into the hard rock with the full orchestra.
Dude,
absolutely
the end part
phenomenal.
Chat was telling me about it, and I was like, damn, I actually kind of forget the song that played, and I was like, I need to go back and listen to it. And I listened to it, and I was like, how did I forget this? This is actually such a banger song.
And again, that's like what they do such a good job with the music in this, is like the callbacks are so much clearer. And not to say there's anything wrong with what 3 did, right? I think it was a very distinct choice, and I think it worked in parts, but as a preference, personally, right, I like the bombastic orchestral themes of the areas in 1 and 2. And you get that in this. Like the Black Mountain theme, oh my gosh. When you're on Prison Island and you get the fight with the Fog Beast, and the Fog Beast is the dragon from the end of Xenoblade.
No, Roger. You know what threw me for a loop? When I fucking walk through Tefra Hill.
Yes,
and I'm like, wait a minute, dude. I hear the music, and I'm like,
going crazy when I heard that.
When I hear the music, I'm like, wait a minute, where did I hear this from? And then I just sit there, and I'm like, bro, this is Tefra Hill. What the fuck?
Even Colony 9, going to the actual overgrown Colony 9 was so cool. Getting to explore that again all these years later, having the side quest there where you're fixing the gem thing from the first game. Like, oh god, man, it was incredible, really incredible as a Xenoblade fan.
Having Shulk just reminisce.
Yeah, there's a lot of small, like, outside of like the affinity scenes, which I guess we can bring up afterwards, but
yes,
there's a lot of small like dialogue options and like little environmental Easter eggs that are absolutely phenomenal. Like Rex's salvaging gear that he can dig up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
That was so cool.
Also, let's say like
such a particular throwback as well. Like, it's a throwback to this one side quest you might have done in Xenoblade 2 if you went back to Tantal to talk to the king, and it's like it's one piece of the 4 things that you have to salvage, and it's like, wow, that's so.
I love the I'm really feeling it Easter egg
I'm not really feeling
I
it.
haven't even gotten
I'm not really feeling it. There's
When did he
an
say that?
affinity scene. There's an affinity scene where Shulk is viewing the waterlogged what was it? There's like some waterlogged area, and he's like
Oh, I
he's
don't
like
think I unlocked that one then.
yeah he's like reminiscing, and then Rex is just like I'm not really feeling it.
Oh, that's so good.
Well, he also
that.
says that line if you go into the hero roster, and you just play the voice clips there.
And he
Oh,
just
really?
says,
That
I'm
line.
not really feeling it. I have to go check that out then afterwards. Because I'm glad you bring that up about the affinity scenes, too. Because remember, like, when we were talking about Xenoblade 3, and I said I kind of missed the heart-to-hearts, and I wish that a lot of stuff that was in the, like, actual quests would have been heart-to-heart stuff that I could do at my leisure. Like, that is what you get with these affinity scenes, and they're so well-written and so funny. Like, I love the one when you get to the shot of the Orion Mountain, and Rex is talking about the time he got swallowed up by the mountain, and
Yes.
Nicole are like,
He's like,
Yes.
are you being serious? Yeah.
Are you serious now? And he's like, don't worry about it. You wouldn't understand. Like, that was so good. And again, there were tons of those, and they're hidden all over the place. And it really did reward players who played through 1 and 2, and like you mentioned, right, did this all the side quests in 1 and 2, referencing the salvaging gear thing. Like, it was just
100%ing this is very rewardable, not only for the the affinity scenes and Collectopedia and Enemypedia, all that stuff, but like the super bosses are extremely fun to play.
No.
Yeah, I don't know about.
Extremely
I don't
fun
know
to
about
play.
that.
No.
I don't know about that.
Extremely fun to play.
I mean, it might just because me and you are
I
hard,
hated these
Vero.
super bosses.
Because like I went for the level 61 right before I beat the game. So I didn't even have Niall, and he's just resistant to physical. That's all I have. So I'm over here slowly trying to kill this thing. And I tried Bob once. I got him to half, and it's like,
Bob, dude.
it's like he just keeps locking people, and this is just a pain. I'll just come back to this.
I don't know. I had a lot of fun. I guess it's because I was Rex abusing, but I had a lot of fun just like racking up tons of damage and chain attacks. So
it's so funny because just something you just mentioned, right? Where you'd mentioned, the 100%ing it and how rewarding it is for longtime players. I also feel the nice thing about this is that it is doable. Like, it's actually doable. If you have a life and you can't just like soak 300 hours into something, it is very doable to 100% this. They make it rewarding because you're constantly getting stuff. You can boost up with all the affinity things. You can boost up your skills, and just everything that they added to this was just so much fun, and it makes you actually want to go back and 100% things because of how good those scenes are, and because how rewarding it is, and because of how easy they actually make it. Right? It's not something that when I think about 100%ing a Xenoblade game, I think I've only done that for Torna, and that sucked with all the community stuff. And
I'm not gonna lie. Speaking of community, the community board popped up in this. I was worried for a bit, but then it's not Torna. It's actually good.
And I've 100%ed the original Xenoblade, but I never 100%ed 2. I never 100%ed 3, and I have no desire to after Future Redeemed.
100%ing Future Redeemed it doesn't feel as grindy as
it's not a chore.
Others.
No, it feels like something you could naturally do.
It's interesting because as someone who's also 100%ed both Torna and Future Redeemed, for me it took the same amount of time to do both, but as you guys said, Future Redeemed felt a lot less grindy just because of how it delivers its content to you. Oh, another thing that I thought of actually, this is a bit of a random aside. So we didn't talk about too much about some of the other characters like Panacea and Linka, the kids of Charlotte and Ryan and Zeke and Pandy respectively. And in Linka's side quest, the favorite food that is in her side quest is Pandoria's favorite food.
Yes.
No way. Really?
Yeah, it is.
Oh man.
I also love how Rex takes on, chef duties after, Pyra's cooking skills and stuff like that. He, learns from her. Like, I loved that aspect.
I also thought it was funny because the very first thing he makes is just a lobster dish, and he's like, "Oh yeah, here's these torpedo wraps afterwards," and it's like, what?
It is pretty amazing when you think about it too. Like, how all these characters are pretty much related. Like, I think now might be a good time to bring up that family tree, because I
sure,
see
yeah.
it in the Japan time notes, but I have not taken a look at this yet. And so far, this looks par for the course.
I gotta pull it up on my stream now too.
So yeah, pull it up on the stream and let's take a look at this, because obviously you've got the Trinity processor, and that's where you see Alpha and A right there. Numa, the split off with Pyra and Mithra. Now, this is where things get wild, because really, Rex comes in contact with his son-in-law during the fight with N. I'm assuming he's unaware of that at that point in the game. Is he unaware that N is his son-in-law?
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, he doesn't reference that with N. He sees Niall and doesn't say anything. So like, no. I don't know if he knows.
So there's some stuff I left out on here because honestly I forgot the characters existed. Juju, Shania. But this is basically, it's a little complicated in some parts, but this is basically what I ascertained from the entire Xenoblade series. I don't even, where do I start here? I don't even know where I should start.
I mean, ironically enough, it really is wild, because the start kind of is that one shot that made everyone lose their minds at the end of Base Game 3 with Rex with the hand with Pyra.
Yeah.
Because really, like, Nia gives us Mio, right? Who then marries Noah, who then has Gondor, whose grandchildren are Matthew and Niall. So it all kind of stems from there. And then, obviously, his child with Pyra is Glimmer. And, I mean, that's kind of what gives us the main cast.
Well, there's some interesting things that I guess this is partly where some Xenoblade fans have been disappointed with Monolith not, giving us full closure, because we don't know who Noah's parents are or where he comes from. He just kind of exists, We don't know anything that precedes him. And then not only
I don't think
that,
we need to, though. As a main protagonist of 3, I feel like I kind of like that. We don't necessarily need that.
There is a situation where if Monolith decides, they want to expand somewhere, or maybe this is where the continuation of Xenoblade goes. It's another 6-game series where the end of it ties into the entire Claw Saga. So I don't know. They might do something there.
And to be fair, I feel like we don't really know Shulk and Rex's parentage either. So they're all kind of. I think true. Noah being the protagonist of 3, I think puts him in the same light as Shulkin with Rex. And so I think if you don't know the parentage of either of them, they're just a couple of dudes, right?
Well, with Shulk and Rex, at the very least, we knew that they were orphaned from a young age, and then they had people taking care of them. And then with Noah, it's a bit more complex, I guess. I think, as you guys were mentioning, I don't think it really matters too much who their parents are, but I think it's important to note the fact that, there's the Noah that isn't part of the origin cycle, i.e. N, and then there's the one that is. And I think that's kind of an interesting thing to think about, because, like, I'm not entirely sure if that's properly clarified. I've seen a couple of theories suggesting that, similar to how when N killed Gondor and those two kind of collided, you had that point where Alpha and A were separated. In that moment, that's also kind of where N and Noah separated, where Noah becomes a part of the origin system while N still exists.
Okay. Yeah, because I was thinking about that too, because they didn't really touch on that like directly at all.
Yeah, I was trying to think about it, but
stuff. I feel like Z, because they mentioned Z's there in the fight with Alpha, right? But they don't really expand on that.
That's the thing with the DLC. Z shows up for the beginning of the DLC and one cutscene where he's in the theater, and that's right.
And but they just mentioned they struck a bargain with him for like a peace treaty.
Yeah. To be fair, it's kind of par for the course for the base game though as well, because Z was never like the best villain, and I feel like again, I was so soured by that final fight with the I hate it, and just, you know, being the personification of regret and all this other stuff that people were coming up with. I was not a fan of that character in the slightest. And quite frankly, a lot of the consoles as well. I feel like they felt like generic Organization 13, Akatsuki type characters for the most part, right? Like the stop gaps in between chapters. And I think my opinion of them hasn't changed in this DLC, but because of what we got fleshed out here, I am more forgiving of it, and I'm more understanding of like, okay, they are just kind of this like shadow organization there, and I don't necessarily need to know everything about them because everything else was so well written and so nicely tied up, you know.
Hey, one thing I was kind of hoping they would expand a bit on, it's with Noah again, so I get why they didn't. I see it in chat. It's like, how did N originally get lucky sevens? Because that's not explained. He just has it, and like in the flashbacks, right? N just because in the flashbacks, N already has it. Like the whole time, N has lucky sevens, and all those flashbacks you see of him, and then he leaves it with Gondor, and then Riku eventually gets the sort of it from Gondor, and I'm guessing the gauntlets that Matthew has are what becomes the sheath of it later.
Is that not a time loop thing though, because of Noah and Mio? Like I had assumed that. I guess Noah summons it during that scene in chapter 5 in the base game, right? So yeah, I do wonder that.
Well, but it's even shown to us in flashbacks that Riku gave it to him.
But
like,
I mean, with the timing of it, yeah, how does N have it?
Yeah, but like N just has it. That's what like the weird part. They don't really. That's never touched on.
Well, N has.
That's a good question.
N's sword is purple.
Yeah, but no, but like in the flashbacks, he has lucky sevens. When he becomes N, he gets the other one that has like Malos's core crystal in it. Right. But during the flashbacks, when he's still Noah, he had lucky sevens.
This is a theory of that it's two different swords, because there's the sword of the end, and then there's lucky seven. Like
sword of the end is the one with Malos.
Yeah, I know. No, I know they're two different swords. I'm just like, how does Noah get lucky sevens? Because that's like the thing that's confusing. It's like N, while he's Noah, has lucky sevens and all those flashbacks you go through. How does he get it?
I don't know.
Chat saying there's a patch for the cutscene that changed.
The other thing is, do we ever know who
okay.
Mithra and Rex's kid is? Has that
before that, I want to go down this rabbit hole of Nia and Rex because
okay, sure.
After Grandpa Gondor, great Grandpa Gondor, there's this whole lineage of people we don't know about. I don't know if we ever will know about them, but then we get to Matthew and Niall, and as we know now, they create two of the 6 houses or 2 of the 7 houses, I guess, or no,
right?
I think it's just 2. I think it's just 6, but 2 of the 6 houses. We get Vandam and Doyle. And at the end of the DLC, Matthew calls himself Matthew Vandam.
Right.
So I don't know if his name is already Vandam or if he chose the Vandam name here. Because it's not clarified.
Yeah, I think they might leave that up in the air, but the thing with Niall, she could marry into would be like Doyle, so it would still work. Like she could have been Vandam as well.
Sure. But I think with the Vandam thing, I am also wondering if that goes all the way back to 2, right? With Vandam as like this father figure for Rex in the early part of 2, and Rex being orphaned. If maybe Rex took the name,
the Vandam name.
Vandam.
Well, that would need to have Mio also take the Vandam name.
Well, she would, because I'm assuming if Rex and Nia have Mio, then I'm assuming she would take that. Well, I don't know because
then that would also make.
I don't know. That does. Throw,
well, if Rex claims themselves as a Vandam, then Glimmer would also claim herself as a Vandam. No.
Well, no.
Well, Glimmer doesn't, but they don't know. They don't know.
They're taking up different names. It doesn't really matter. This is whatever. This is
right.
Yeah,
because like we can't even assume Schultz's last name is Ortiz because like Nicole doesn't even know.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
And then you have something like Linka being Cassini, but Zeke's name is Von Gembu, and
right.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then you get Guernica, and you get Monica, and then you get Gondor Junior. Another Gondor.
Gondor.
Yeah, literally a millennium.
Well, Dude, that was such a cool reveal too when you find out Gramps' name is Gondor and that like the fight with him in the very beginning.
And another cool thing
God.
is that I love that it's same Venom line and then Gondor and Matthew both use gauntlets as weapons. Very cool. But yeah, then you have Rex and Mithra, and we don't know if they have a revealed character that we just don't know about, or if they have yet to reveal anything about it, but people are claiming that it could be possibly Console D, aka Dirk, which I absolutely hate. I don't know why people are reaching for that.
Dirk is, to clarify, just so I remember, Dirk is like the serial killer dude, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would hate
Dirk is
that
the guy
so
with the fat kid.
I
I forget his name.
Right. I don't want that at all. I do not.
People
want
were
Dirk
like,
to be
"Oh,
that
Dirk's blonde and he's angry like Mithra, and one of his
No.
attacks has spikes like Mithra." It's like, bro, no, stop.
Please no, please no.
This is, I think, just another case where it doesn't need to be explained because there's no story impact on it whatsoever. But yeah, then you have Rex and Pyra here, who make Glimmer that then makes up House Rhodes.
A very, very quick pivot back to Gondor real quick. And this so throughout the main game, of course, Gondor kind of expresses disdain for her name.
For her name, right.
And when you consider that Gondor is very much about being an individual, being her own person, and she wants other people to be their own people, it would make sense as to why she dislikes her name when it's named after someone else.
Yeah.
Right.
Even like in hindsight with Gondor's design, she has red wraps on her hands, which very ties back to Matthew having the red gauntlets.
Yeah, it's like very direct, yeah. Did House Rhodes have a descent? I don't believe so. I think it's just no. I think it's just Reed and Cassini.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, we have Shulk, Fiora. They have a little boy Nicol here that makes House Ortiz.
Who literally is like mini Shulk. It was so funny. Like from
it's
pretty
much, Shulk with Fiora's green eyes.
And not only with Fiora's green eyes, but also I thought it was like kind of a funny callback with him using the robot arms and Fiora obviously having been part Mechon.
Yeah.
It's like funny. It was it's like my dad's like a really cool mechanic and like into technology and stuff, and then my mom was part robot, so yeah. And then we have the insinuated Ryan and Charla having oh my god, I'm forgetting her name. Jesus Christ. Panacea making House Reed, which then later on in a millennium or whatever would have Shania in House Reed.
Tragic.
Wait, what?
Yeah, so Shania would be a descendant of Ryan and Charla because Panacea creates House Reed.
I wish my camera was on.
If you think about it, wait, Roger, Shania? if you think about it, Rex's ancestry dunks on Ryan's ancestry.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
No.
Quite literally.
Oh no. Oh wow.
But yeah. And I guess
one of my favorite characters in 3.
If you think about it, House Reed just has L after L. They have Juju, they have Shania. We don't talk about that family line. We don't talk about that family line. Yeah.
Poor Ryan.
Yeah, poor Ryan.
No.
At least his kid is
Shania connection. Wow.
At least his kid is fine. Yeah, his kid managed to do something very worthwhile for the future. So
right.
I also love that they didn't go with Shulk and Rex being the house leaders.
Yeah,
leaving it to other people.
Yeah. And then they have the statues to tie them in too.
I mean, they even say as much in the that ending cutscene, right?
Yeah, it said it's just not their job.
Right. They're like, it's not our time, and we'll have to. What's that one scene where they're talking about like I think he says to Matthew like watch over them or something, and how like we'll give our life for them, Yeah, it was clearly for the next generation. It wasn't for them. They had their adventures already. So.
Yeah, that was like I think A questions them when they're gonna let Glimmer and Nicole go on the final mission.
Right.
They said even like
Yeah.
we'll give our lives if it means that they'll live.
That's what I was thinking of exactly. Yeah.
And then you got our boy Zeke and Pandoria.
Andy.
Now a lot of people were speculating that Zeke and Morag would have children because they're both technically royalty, one being prince and one being princess. But no,
she's a special inquisitor, so she's not technically a princess.
well,
But
yeah, but people are like, you know how people have been insinuating stuff and trying
She's
to
like
force
an-
shit. Yeah, but this is just straight up, confirmed at this point with the game and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have Linka, and Linka creates House Cassini, which later on houses Masha. And there's like, I just played the DLC too. There's like a super nuanced Easter egg with the Cassini DLC where she mentions something from Xenoblade 2.
Like one of her
She's like-
ancestors or something.
Yeah, because
Pandia Rex?
she's like a
I mean,
crafter.
Zeke.
She's like a crafter of type, and she has one line. I'm just forgetting about it, but yeah, she's like basically Zeke's daughter. Like
on the topic of that though, with you mentioning connections to 2, just a brief little thing I wanted to mention as well regarding Shulk and Rex is like how they eventually became like their mentors, right? With Rex having the scar over his eye and Shulk losing his arm like Dunban. Like I thought that was also a nice little touch too.
Yeah.
yeah.
good fan service. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like real fast, like still want to stay in this discussion, but I just want to because to me like 3 had a lot more love in it for 2 than it did 1. I feel like the major callback in base 3 was like the Kavesi like abilities or like Xenoblade 1. You have to wait for them. That was kind of like it. Besides the
I feel
Sword
like
of the
maybe
Mechonis.
the reason for that was because we just got the definitive edition and Future Connected, right? And more in the world of Xenoblade 1 with also, and that's going to come up soon too with Riku as well. But I feel like maybe that is why they chose to flesh out a little more of that, with ones basically being more cleanly resolved. I feel like
Yeah,
I think
like this
people cared about
DLC had
pairings in
so
1.
much
Right.
love for Xenoblade 1. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Speaking of Xenoblade 1 and Future Connected,
Yep.
it's quite possible that either Riku or I forget this Nopon's
Ricky.
name.
Ricky or
Ricky or Kino.
Yeah, I meant Ricky.
You know.
Yeah, Ricky
You
or
know.
Kino is the is there a word for
It's father. Yeah, it'd be
Parents.
father. He's
No
Is
pun.
his father?
Daddy.
Dadapon.
Daddy.
no Dadapon.
Dad-
Yeah.
Dadapon.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Dadapon,
There we go.
of Riku. And
That's
Riku
such a
was
great theme,
Riku's master pawn apparently is Melia as well. which
Yeah,
is-
so I'm glad they
excellent,
said that
yeah.
because in that cutscene where they do a knowing look is like, what does he know? Like, and they just
bro,
didn't say
right.
anything.
I'm so glad we found out what he fucking knew, man.
Yeah,
Holy
yeah.
shit.
And I really like that too, that they made that connection, right? Because and that it is kind of up in the air because it works either way, right? If it's Ricky, I think that's cool to build off of base game 1. But then if it's Kino, I think it also makes Future Connected like more integral to the story and like more fun to play through because now you have this direct connection with Riku. And while I'm thinking of it, I have to mention this because I hated it so much in base game 3, and I love how they fixed it in Future Redeemed. The Fog Beasts, the Fog Beasts, so much better in Future Redeemed. Like
Oh yeah, for sure.
all the stuff with the fog and the fog monsters, the way that played out in base game 3, I'm like, what? Whereas in Redeemed, like every time there was a fog rift, I would get excited, or I loved seeing the connection that they would make to characters that were in those environments previously. Like I said, the dragon on Prison Island, to then come back up as like a manifestation fog beast. Such a cool little
I don't
Easter
want to
egg thrown in
spoil
there
it for
people.
you, but yeah, there's one that's really cool.
Wait.
One
The
that I
fog
haven't seen
beasts
yet?
weren't a thing.
Yeah,
in
yeah, they
Base
were.
Game
I was
3.
saying,
You're-
base
are you
game 3
thinking
they
of
had the
Future
purple
Connected?
fog.
No. I mean, what I mean is that the stuff with the fog beasts was way cooler in this than like what they did with the fog in base game 3.
Well, it's like
I mean,
it's a
do
different
anything-
fog. Yeah, it's a completely
right,
different
right.
fog in base
I know.
3.
But I mean, the regardless of whether it's a different fog or not, how they built upon it, I greatly appreciate.
I was definitely happy we got an answer to what the hell the fog bees are because
Right.
like,
No, I'm just
Feature
trying
Connected
to
did nothing about
recall what you're talking about with base game 3.
I think he's just
having
dealing with
the
the
fog
purple
beasts.
fog in general that
Right,
like is the hint
exactly.
of an extinction event. He's just talking about
Exactly. That's all. it is,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
The annihilation
Because I
event.
wanted
Okay,
it-
got it.
Yeah.
Because I wanted it more fleshed out, and I feel like with the fog stuff in this,
It explains.
even if it's
it.
not the same fog, I was like, "This is cool. I like this. I'm a fan of this."
Cool.
Right? Because
Also-
and like Technoblast says in the chat, they're like from the same source, right?
No, because like the fog beasts are from Alpha, and Alpha is not there when base 3
Yeah.
happens.
But Alpha, but Future Connected, right? I almost said Future Redeemed, but Future Connected ends with the fog that sets off the extinction event, right?
I don't.
And what
think
am
so.
I
Am I
don't
missing
believe
something?
so. I think
I
I feel like
confusing things.
they're different because like the fog beasts are in Future Connected, and then like I thought the hint for that was that like there's this cutscene of Shulk in his Future Connected outfit finding Alpha's
Right.
core crystal. So it's assumed like after
Right,
the end
right.
he found it,
He found
and then
it, right?
that was why the fog is there, and that's why he's dealing with all this fog stuff because he
But I
like that
thought
was
that's
there.
why. Okay. I understand.
I mean, I could be wrong, but that's what I thought, and then I'm pretty sure they said that the fog beasts are
That's
something with Alpha
Yeah.
because I
You're
remember
right.
that.
You're right.
I also just remembered like something I completely forgot about because it's like very forgettable after a while. Is A's future sight ability that's just like kind of glossed over because it's not as
The visions.
dramatic. Yeah, the visions just aren't dramatic as they are in 1 and all that. But yeah, Riku. What did we not say about? Oh, he's the 7th member, technically. He's
Yep.
the secret 7th member. I also believe that Kino is the more likely to be the data pawn because
Yeah.
I think there's a line somewhere where like there's evidence that Ricky's children can't be the same color as Riku or something. I can't remember, but it's more in line to be Kino. But
But Kino is already Ricky's kid, so regardless, Riku is of the line of Ricky.
yeah, it would
Yeah,
it
so-
would yeah.
Same family, regardless. It's just whether or not he's a yeah.
I think the other important thing to note about Riku is that it's very likely. I think I want to say this might have been like highlighted somewhere that he isn't part of the origin system, much like Shulk, Rex, Panacea, Linka,
Right.
etc.
Yeah, because he
He's-
remembers. He knows his dad traveled with Melia.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And so this kind of brings up the point of, well, if he's not part of the system, how old is he? How does he age, or does he even age at all?
That's what thing is like. I don't think they ever address how the life expectancy of a Nopon. Like we don't know because there's also the other. There's the I can't remember his name, but the one that becomes the person that could put all the coins everywhere in base 3. He's in this too.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
Because
honestly,
he's the one that did the cave thing, right?
Yeah, the dungeons that you have to go through.
Yeah,
like
he's
in
the
this, you
dungeon
basically
boss.
help him set
can
those
just
up.
live for a long time, I assume, though, because like I remember the first time you see Ricky in base game Xenoblade 1, they're shocked that he's like 40 something, and So I think they just age differently, and I am very curious what Riku's age at the end of base game 3 would be. He's very, very old.
Yeah, he could potentially be a Nopon sage in disguise.
There you go.
True.
He likes
true.
to, we
He's hiding all that
made it
shit
ve-
under his hair.
he made it very clear that he likes to remain very low key. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
Hey,
funny.
he's
It's
just-
like, wait, but
he's
you're
just
really
a-
special. I'm like, no, I don't really like the limelight.
What did he what did he say again? He's just a common variety or normal variety Nopon.
Common variety
Yeah.
Nopon. Riku
Yeah,
is.
he's just common variety, man.
Yeah. So then, what's going on this family tree with Xeno? What is it? What's going on here?
The last little bit on the bottom here before we get to the Trinity up there is it's implied, and this is also me kind of reaching, but Bridget and Morag could potentially have fostered the lineage for Senna, and the reason I believe so is because Bridget could have potentially been a flesh eater, and with her and Morag together, it could be connected in a way to Senna. But that's me stretching. I mean, like, again, they're very similar in design with the hair and the core crystal
With the fire,
and,
sure.
and all
I
of
always
that, but
thought Aegeon, because the marks on her body are kind of similar to the marks he has. So I thought it
Again,
was
well, I don't know about
Bridget and
Aegeon because
From Xenoblade 2, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
just because we've seen how fucking like Nia, Mio, and Niall have like similar traits but not exactly the same, you know. It could be a possibility, but I don't know.
Even
I
Aegon
think
was in
there's
Torna. I literally forgot that he was in Torna.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
there's
Wow.
there's some affiliation there. I'm
Yeah.
You
pretty
say
Yeah.
the core crystal, but Senna's core crystal is very different from Bridget's. So Bridget's is a flame, and Senna's is just a circle.
I
Whereas,
think I'm
like
misremembering then.
with like
Looking back
Glimmer
at these,
and
yeah.
Neo, like their ones are identical. Even Linker's is identical to Pandy's. It's just hers is complete rather than missing the little chunk that's in Zeke.
Let me see. I might be misremembering. Oh yeah, I'm totally misremembering.
This game is so good, though. Even the fact that
Yeah.
we're having this conversation, connecting all these other games, it's just like thinking
True.
back to it. How fun is this? I just love it so much.
Yeah, but now there's the Trinity processor trio with Ontos, Numa, and Logos. With it being confirmed, Alvis is Ontos, and then we have, of course, the Malus being Logos and just Numa. Why did I structure it like this? This is kind of confusing. So yeah, we all know that Pyro and Mithra are connected to Numa. And A is the, how did they explain it? The conscience of Alpha.
Yeah. Essentially, the
Mhm.
conscience of Ontos that was split off
Yeah.
from Alpha.
Right.
Alpha is essentially just a machine.
And
Because Alpha's not Elvis, right? Alpha is, because I kept calling him Elvis during the game. Alpha is like this
Alpha is
new
Alpha.
rebirth.
It would be more
right,
accurate to call A Alvis because A is the one that
Right.
retained the memories of
Elvis. Right.
Elvis's journey with
Right,
Shulk.
right.
And
And
Shulk even
Shulk calls her
calls A
Alvis.
Alvis
Yeah.
Yep.
to the end. I think the one thing that's consistently kind of bothered me about this Trinity processor thing right now is if we're accepting the idea of N sword containing the data of Logos, right? Where did that come from? Because Malos dies
I
at the
can
end of
explain
2.
it to you.
Let's hear it.
So there's
Go
a
for it.
theory that the souls of, or I guess not a theory, but it is explained through some people, but mainly Riku, I believe, that Riku says in the game that the souls of everyone are in this sword when he shows Lucky 7 to Matthew. Now, Lucky 7 is made of origin metal, which would then imply that, of course, as we know, or you should know, that the souls of everyone from the two worlds before Ionios are in origin. So, you can imply that the soul of Logos, because the Sword of the End is made of origin, that it could be from, what am I saying here?
I get where you're
mixed up with my
going.
own thoughts, but yes,
No. Yeah.
Basically, because the Fist of the End and the Sword of the End and all that shit are made from origin metal,
Which
They are-
contains souls of people that are
they are fostering those souls, and they are just able to bring out Logos and Numa. And that's why you see the shot of Matthew, the gauntlets like disintegrating, and you see the Aegis and the purple aura that you see from Sword of the End signifying Logos. And that's kind of why I have that little Ouroboros link between the two of them there, because during that sequence, N uses that power to activate Matthew's Ouroboros powers. So I kind of took that as, okay, so that means the power of Numa and Logos kind of created the first instance of the true Ouroboros power.
Like the first interlink.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically
Yeah.
that. But yeah, it's kind of hazy there because, again, there's no true explanation as to why they're like that.
Well, because that brings up another question then that I have, and I figured one of you guys might know because I was getting conflicting things from my chat. My chat was convincing me that Lucky 7 contained Fiora, Rhine, Sharla.
Well, yeah,
Dunban.
because again,
So
those
is
would
that
be the
the case,
souls. Those would be the souls of people from the two worlds before. Like those were
Right.
souls put
Well,
into
that's what I mean,
Origin.
though. Right. So who are the Lucky 7 then? Who are the 7? Is it Fiora, Rhine, Sharla, Zeke, Pandy, Pyramithra?
It's
Because that's 7. I mean, that's and that would explain all of them being missing. And I assume Dunban could have died of old age. So I
would say real fast. My only thing with like the soul line that makes it confusing is because when Riku says that to Shulk, he first says, "Oh, the souls everyone are in your blade," talking about Monado Rex, as they are in this one, talking about the wrapped up Lucky 7. So that's the part that confuses me. Like, what was he talking about between those two?
Right.
I'm pretty sure it's that implies that like literally the entire Xenoblade 1 party is in Lucky 7, including
okay.
Shulk.
That's cool. Wait. Oh, okay. Never mind.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird because time technically stops during all the Ionia stuff, and then like Shulk and Rex become avatar. Like Shulk, Rex, and A become avatars of the Trinity to protect it and make sure that it doesn't get destroyed and stuff like that. And yeah,
But now with the worlds combining at the end of base game and now with Future Redeemed, like, because this is even implied when she's looking at the thing at the end of the base game, right? And she sees the picture of Rex and she says, "I'll see you guys soon." Like they'll all be alive again.
Yeah. Like the ending basically puts you right back to where the beginning was before the two worlds came together with the age of Noah at least. So it would time's gonna go back as if this didn't happen.
So then my question is, did Dunban die prior to all of this?
There's no way of knowing.
Or is Dunban... Yeah, okay. I just didn't know if there was like a line of dialogue I missed or something. Or if Dunban's
no way of knowing that.
Okay.
Yeah, they don't really
'Cause
directly
obviously the party
mention
of two
like
is fine.
death of anyone.
We know that. We see the image of all of them. But all we have from Melia is she just looks up and sees the Monado that Shulk put together. Excuse me, that's it.
I think it would be safe to say that he is alive just based off of the Lucky 7 lines, but he should be alive. I don't see a reason why he would be dead unless, I don't know, he had a random heart attack or something. I don't know.
So then another question I have. Weird minor question. There's the line about when Riku makes the laboratory in Dunban's house, right? Mm-hmm. And Shulk has that line of, "I don't know if he would have appreciated this." I'm just curious if when the world, because Colony 9 gets decimated at the end of Future Redeemed, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the other part. Colony 9's already gone. That one got destroyed.
Right. So then when the worlds interlink, will Riku's laboratory be in Dunban's house? Like, is Dunban going to show up in his house and be like...
I mean in Xenoblade 1, Colony 9's gone.
I know.
That's at the start, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess you're right. Okay.
So it's like his house in the original Colony 9, but like when we go back, it got destroyed. It's gone.
It's got destroyed. You're right. Okay.
Another interesting thing that isn't really brought up too much that I think is something interesting to talk about is how Nia has the power to create the Ouroboros stones, which would imply that she has like some connection to the power of the Trinity, because I believe those would be the only people to foster that power.
Well, that could go in line with the weird like sister wives 3 thing with Shulk. If there was a relationship there with Nia and Pyra and Mithra, right? If there was something there where maybe like because I don't know how, it doesn't matter. It's a fantasy game, but like Pyra and Mithra come from the Trinity processor, and Nia, like I guess it's implied that she also has relationships with them, right? Or loves them too.
I remember
So-
there being like 2 ages for Numa. Like I'm pretty sure there's 2 like cores. But I'm not exactly sure.
I thought it
I
was
think-
just one. I thought that was the whole thing, is that they're like the 2 personalities.
Well,
of
the
Numa.
only way that it makes sense that there's 2 is when they're both separate people at the end of
Right,
2,
when they split
but
at
they
the
both
end,
still
right.
have their cores.
They
So
share
that's
the
like the way
crystal,
that
right.
could work.
I just assumed the core split in half, and then they just became
That's
each
what
other.
I mean.
Like the
They
actual core
split, not
split.
that
Yeah.
there's 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, my bad.
Right.
'Cause,
Like it's an alpha A
the way
situation.
she has her swords in the game, how she has like kind of like Rex's double sword thing. I'm like I feel like she has a connection to Numa in some way, but I'm curious as how the Ouroboros stone develops with how Riku is trying to
Well,
get it all done and stuff.
So the one thing I could think of is because Nia can see everything that's happening, like while she's in stasis, and like you kind of see that Riku is helping Glimmer and Nicole use it to get more powerful. Then after that, you see Nicole and Riku still working to try and perfect it.
Right.
So maybe
Right,
she
right.
just knows the technique from seeing them do it, kind of thing. Because like a lot of stuff was implied
Maybe,
that
yeah.
Colony 9 is the reason a lot of stuff happens. Like the automatons that the new city has,
Right, that's
they're
right,
being
it's a good
built
side
there.
quest, yeah. Yep.
Then
you fight the beta version of it. Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
And then even like the
Yeah.
torpedo wraps, Rex makes those, and they become
Yep.
people like them, and then that's a big thing in the city.
True. Okay.
God, this
Okay.
game's so good, man. Oh, it's
Yeah,
so
I
good.
mean, like, where does the IP go from here? Like,
See, I really don't know.
Do they continue in some way with Xenoblade, or are they like gonna completely ditch it and just start a whole new thing? Because
See,
there is
part
that
of me-
there's that art that they showed
Uh-huh.
that was that
Of
like,
the new game they're
fantasy.
developing.
Yeah.
Right. I don't think that's a Xenoblade game, though. I think that's like a totally different IP.
I think someone mentioned it was used for like
Recruiting.
hiring your
Yeah,
recruiting.
right.
But I don't know.
I
What
really
would you
don't
guys
know.
want?
I'll
back
tell
to
you
me.
something. I know people aren't gonna like this. I don't know if I care for X2. Won't lie to you. Like, I mean,
Well,
I would.
I don't think.
I don't think we're
I
getting
don't think
that
it
either.
would be
Yeah.
X2.
No.
I feel like I
If
would trust
anything,
Monolith
I
Soft to
think-
fix the issues with X, but like, Endgame of X kind of made it.
I think it would be
Unfortunate
Xenosaga,
to
if
me.
anything, instead of X.
Honestly,
I mean,
whatever they make is
part-
gonna bang. So
Oh, yeah.
I'm
Facts.
not
Part of me does-
concerned.
Part of me does feel like maybe they remake Xenosaga, though. Because those games, like, obviously they were popular back on the PS2, but I feel like Xenoblade, now with Nintendo owning the IP, I think Xenosaga could definitely get a second life. It really just depends on, if Bandai Namco gives the rights to Nintendo fully or what happens there. Because
Like
the
some
original
some
Xenosaga
partnership
games,
deal or something.
yeah, something like that. Because the original Xenosaga games were not successful, really. And I wonder if maybe they give it another go and somehow like remake, and I'm saying remake in the terms of like FF7 remake, right?
I'm gonna
Where it
be
is
real.
a totally different game. Go
I'm
ahead.
gonna be real. I don't want that at all.
Yeah, I'm not saying that's what I want. I'm saying that's I think a direction they could go in with this ending shot of Redeemed. I honestly though feel like what you said earlier is probably right. I think Blade itself is potentially too big of a name, and like you had mentioned in Japan, it's always just been Xenoblade. It's not been Xenoblade Chronicles. And so they could very easily do Xenoblade subtitle whatever
Yeah.
and make a continuation of it there and have that be the new story of the Blade. Whereas here,
They
it would
can
make sense to just
also-
give a new subtitle and just be Xenoblade whatever. We had the Chronicles saga, now we'll have a different saga, right?
I think they just keep the prefix and just name it like Xeno Shield.
Sure.
You
Yeah,
know?
Xeno Shield, Xeno Spears, Xeno
Yeah.
whatever. Xeno Gun.
Xeno Gun sounds
Yeah.
fire.
Xeno Gun.
Hey, Xeno. Maybe they bring back Xenogears, huh? You never know.
They could do that too. Yeah. Yeah.
Cogs.
Speaking of which,
Xenocog.
I found out the other day that there's this cool Easter egg. It's probably intentional, but spoilers for Xenogears, I guess. The final, or at least one of the final bosses, I don't remember, of Xenogears is literally a snake, a giant snake thing named Ouroboros.
No way.
Look it up. Google
I did
it.
not know that. Whoa, cool.
Very cool. That's just showing the power of Takahashi. That he's a genius.
Truly goated. I mean, like, I think even despite the gripes I had with 3, that game was still excellent. And I feel like the Xenoblade as a whole, in terms of a trilogy, is quite possibly the best trilogy ever made in terms of video games. Like, and I'm not saying that lightly. Like, I really mean that.
Yeah.
I feel like it's so solid beginning to end. The story is so excellent. The characters are great. The gameplay only gets better. I love it. And
to
I
like
really
to
want
actually
to see
take a
Xenoblade
trilogy
continue.
and give it a conclusion that
Like
its
this,
fans are
exactly.
satisfied with is
Yeah.
hard, because look at Mass Effect. Like, people
Right.
hate the end of Mass Effect
Right.
3, myself included.
Yeah, I don't know where we go from here. I mean, I also would not hate seeing more of these characters in the in the world where they're together.
That's
And
the thing. We've been fed these characters for so long. It would just
Yeah.
feel weird at first to not play a Xeno game from Takahashi and be like, no Shulk, no Rex, no
Rex,
Noah.
right. Especially because I feel like on one hand, right, they kind of try to be like Final Fantasy and have the games just completely stand on their own. But now it's gotten to a point where they obviously connect in such a way that I feel like if they were to continue it, you would have to at least have some through lines with some of the characters. You know, you would some type of reference with Shulk or Rex or whatever. The inevitable next Smash Brothers, I'm sure we'll have Noah and Mio. I'm sure. I have no doubt. And I feel like you just got to continue that. I feel like maybe we move on. We're not in the endless now anymore. We need to have new characters. You start from the beginning. But then again,
me in the endless now, man. I don't think I'll be like, bro. The ending to the DLC, it
was perfect.
After,
I mean, like,
dude,
it really is the
Like,
perfect ending.
literally, after I beat it, I sat there, I watched the credits, I listened to that beautiful song
Oh,
while watching this montage of all the Xenoblade games, and I'm just
Yeah, that was
sitting
so
there
cool.
reflecting, I'm relishing in the joy that I've experienced playing all of these games, and then it takes me to the title screen, and dude, you can ask my chat, I was sitting there for like 10 minutes, not saying a single word because I was just so overwhelmed that the series has, at least for the Claws saga, has come to
concluded.
a
Yeah.
finality, and I was so upset about it. I ended stream and I cried. I was so pissed off.
It is wild too, because I mean, not that this is completely similar, but I think the thing I said on my stream with the end of it was, that final fight with Alpha. I was sitting there going, man, this is really Xenoblade Infinity War, right? This is like Xenoblade Endgame, excuse me. Like, everything coming together. You get the culmination of this giant saga of stuff, and like, where do we go from here? And then, I've liked some MCU projects since then, but like, it's really not been the same. And I think,
Yeah.
based on how things are going with the current phases or the multiverse saga or whatever, it's one of those things where it's like I'm coming out of the endless now. Like the first 3 phases of the MCU were a thing, and they're done, and they're doing something else with this. And I'm kind of I could care less, honestly, is where I am kind of now. And I watch them here and there. Yeah, and that's kind of the thing, right? Is that
like I hope Xenoblade, or at least Monolith Soft, understand that they know their market, they know what their consumers want, and not only the type of game, but the design of the game, like these mechs that you had in Xenoblade 1, and you know, all of like the thematics of Xenoblade. I hope they understand that's why people enjoy the series, and they don't do something like a Final Fantasy and they switch it up every
completely,
other iteration.
3 games or something. Sure.
Like I don't want them to alienate anyone that's a fan for how long they've been playing it. Like,
and given how like the series is very popular now, they're selling millions of copies, all of them now, and I feel like it's enough of a household name where I think they don't necessarily need to go the Final Fantasy route, but I don't think it would hurt them, really. I think they're not in a position where it's so big of a franchise that if they were to, do something completely different for the next bit, that I think it would really hurt the series in the same way. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like...
Yeah, like show them a thing or 3, yeah.
Right. Like, they could do something else different for the next couple games. They could always go back and do another Xenoblade if they want to, They could continue that story. They could, show us the world that's linked together and see more of these characters or their descendants or whatever. Or they could just, again, they could do something completely different. But I don't see a world in which they throw out Shulk and Rex and these characters, for the future. I think there will always be references to them in some way, shape, or form. And I think there'll be other ways that they use these characters. Like, I think, to me, a lot of people are asking, like, what do you think is going to be the next Xenoblade game? And I mean this truly, I think the next Xenoblade is Xenoblade Warriors. That's what I think we're getting. I think there's going to be, like, a Xenoblade Warriors potentially in the world of the end of Future Redeemed, in the interconnected world where then all the characters can be together, and there's some type of conflict there, and I think that's maybe what we get. Because look at how successful that's been for Nintendo. Like, these Warriors games do, and I know some people don't want that, but I think if they have the direct input of Monolith Soft, and they need like a buffer
I'm not gonna lie,
what's new,
I wouldn't mind that if it was a DLC expansion that they put on with this expansion pass. Like, if they had like some type of small scale Warriors type thing that was like the
but the Warriors games are so, like, if you've played Fire Emblem or Hyrule or like
the only
these
one
Warriors
I played is
Nintendo
Sengoku
spinoffs,
Basara 3. That's the only Muso type game I've ever played.
The Nintendo Muso games are crammed with fan service, and I would argue it's very good fan service. And I think they have built a world at the end of Future Redeemed where if they want a non-canon, balls to the wall, fan service game where you could play as all of these characters that would make sense, it would be the interlinked world of 1 and 2 put together at the end of 3, where then you could have everybody together. And again, it doesn't need to build upon... I don't mean it needs to be like a big canon game, but I think as a fan service title, which is what the Warriors games are, I don't think it would hurt to have it. Especially because, again, it's not like I'm saying this is Monolith's next big project or whatever. I'm saying this would be like the side thing while Monolith cooks up whatever they're going to cook up for Switch 2.
True. Switch 2. Yeah.
Oh, yes, please. I need Monolith Soft to not be handicapped by Nintendo's consoles anymore.
Well, they're not.
Because they are doing. They do so much work with this console that's like 10 years old in terms of its hardware. It's crazy.
We're not getting that. I feel like with the new recent financials and them saying that their development is still progressing nicely for the successor, but there's just nothing this fiscal year. That's fine. Like, I'm not expecting a new Xenoblade something in the next fiscal year. That's fine. We just had Future Redeemed. We had 3, plus we had 2 and Torna on the same system.
Yeah, it's crazy that literally all 3 Xenoblade games are all on the Switch. Like,
Right.
the fact that this company can do that and put big DLC for all 3 of them, it's wild.
And this is also, if you look at the track record, right? You look back at the Wii and Xenoblade Chronicles coming out towards the end of the life cycle of that system, and they got to work pretty soon after on Xenoblade Chronicles X, and really, like, despite the issues you might have with that game, I feel like the expansion of the world, what they did with the scales, how pretty that game was, there's a lot of stuff to love in X, and I feel like if they're stopping work on Switch now, and I'm sure being one of the premier developers for Nintendo,
Yeah, they probably already gave them a kit to start working on it.
The kit for Switch 2, right? That I would assume within the first year of Switch 2, much as we got Xenoblade 2 in the first year of Switch, we're probably going to see Monolith Soft's next project.
True. I mean, I agree. Like, it's tough
Because again,
to
it's
say.
not this fiscal year, right?
Yeah,
Like-
it's tough to say because there's so many rumors going on with that console over these last years. Like, I don't genuinely know. Like, Nintendo said they're not going to be presenting anything this summer. Like, there's no direct
They're
this
not.
summer apparently. So,
No.
like, we probably won't get an announcement until maybe the end of this year, if not next year. And who knows if we'll get it even next year.
I still think the way it was worded, I think we're going to get the announcement of it like pretty soon after the holiday season. At earliest, I could see them actually doing it in September at Nintendo Live, but I
You know
don't
what's
see them.
crazy?
I don't see them doing that because they would cut into their holiday sales, but they have not done a price drop for the Switch yet. They could easily drop the price of the Switch.
Hey man, the Switch Lite's right there.
I know, but I mean like actual price drop for the base system. Like I think if they announce Switch's successor in like the fall of this year, similar to what they did with Switch, they price drop the Switch and they have like a big holiday Mario game to close out the system. Plus we still have
dude.
Metroid Prime 4 that could be like the crossover game between the two generations, like how Breath of the Wild was. Dude, like they got
I
it
was
right
gonna
there. They
say-
can release that at the end of next year and we're good.
I was gonna say we got Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, and we still only have Odyssey.
Right. So I think, and you know, we've talked about this on Japan Time before as well. I think like a Mario game is imminent, especially with like the Mario movie and Nintendo World. But I really think like the launch Mario game for whatever the Switch successor is when we get it is probably Mario Kart. It's probably not a platformer Mario. And if that's the case, right, and the Switch successor will most definitely be backwards compatible, whatever. If you release a Mario game this holiday season for the Switch as like the swan song for the system, you release the Switch successor maybe summer of next year, which is out of the fiscal year, probably a good time. Kids are out of school. They could play video games all day. You maybe release it in summer, a la like the GBA. You maybe do a cross launch for Metroid Prime 4, similar to Breath of the Wild, Wii U, and Switch, and you have the big new game for the Switch successor or whatever be Mario Kart, and then that holiday season for the hardcore, you've got whatever Monolith Soft's working on, and there you go. Like, that's your lineup. And that's a relatively believable lineup, and if you look at everything and all the plans that Nintendo has said for the Switch this year, they want to sell another 15 million consoles. Like, they're not going to do that without a price drop and a new Mario game. So... And again, that bodes well for Monolith because I certainly don't think Monolith Soft is going to be working on their next big game on Switch. I think that game is for sure for Switch's successor, and I think it's going to be a nice way to, or whatever, yeah. And it's gonna round out the launch lineup or the launch year window lineup for that system. I think.
Yeah. I agree.
Monolith does no wrong though, and obviously you've got a team at Monolith working on Tears of the Kingdom right now too.
Yeah,
Like,
they have a whole second studio that helps with almost every single Nintendo game. Like Monolith is so big for them, it's wild.
They
And
help with
W
Animal
to them
Crossing.
for increasing everyone's pay after
Yes.
the release of 3.
They did.
Absolute
They did.
massive W.
You know, working on their own good IP, working on the back end for Zelda, for Splatoon, for Animal Crossing, for, you know, all the big Nintendo franchises, the key players, and Xenoblade. They're goated. They are the best single developer that Nintendo has right now, bar none. The best. Period.
Yep.
I think that's a good place to stop it. I think that's well.
I
what were you saying?
was gonna
That's
I
amazing.
have something that we can end it on if you guys want. Just
Let's
because
go. Let's go. Yeah, cook
So
it up.
it's the end of the Claw saga. It's the end of Xenoblade. The future has been redeemed. It's been connected. I want to know from each and every one of you,
Mm.
what has been your favorite moment or memory from the series?
Oh man.
For me, still, it's getting the original Xenoblade 1 on Wii, because I played it like within a couple days. I already put in like 28 hours because I was just like, I started playing this game, I just fell in love with it. Like I've said a bunch of times, I can't really go back to it now, but I still love that game because what it established in terms of an RPG and what it is has made me love this whole series this whole time. So I always look fondly on that first playthrough of Xenoblade 1.
You know, I think
Same,
I'm
yeah.
right there with you. Yeah, I think Xenoblade Ones might be
Wow.
mine as well. The thing is like I could pinpoint the moment in Xenoblade One where I realized like, oh, this series is going to be one of my favorites so long as they continue making them, and it's Valak Mountain. When you're there and you have the fight with Metalface, and you find out with Fiora, like that whole sequence on the mountain, I think
Okay.
is so good. But I will give a special shout out to 3 other scenes, one from each game. One, the reveal that they were all robots in X was mind blowing. And like, I wasn't making content at the time, I wasn't streaming, but like, I was screaming at that
This
reaction.
dude pogged.
I literally pogged at that. Xenoblade 2, I'm sure this is a favorite of everybody's, but like, I love you and Pyra and Mithra. See, I love
I love
everyone.
you
That
and all
moment-
you guys.
I know you guys. That moment to me like defines Xenoblade 2. I love that and go back to that to this day. Don't forget me as well. I think in the early days of 2,
Yeah.
pre-patch, like so fun. And then of course Xenoblade 3, I think chapter 5 is just like a masterwork. What they do with that entire sequence, from the summoning of the Lucky Seven to like the bit where they're in prison beforehand and the music swells. It's just like that is an emotional roller coaster.
Actually,
So,
one tangent real fast. Speaking about that, reminded me of something. I love how much this characterized N and what he's about, because like when in base 3, when N gets redeemed, it's not like it doesn't feel worth it because it is still Noah, but it feels like he's done so much wrong up to this point. But no, they explain to him that like when he went to the city, he went to stop Alpha specifically, and that Gondor made the choice that ended up destroying the original city. But N just took the burden on himself. And even when Gondor got stabbed by him, you could tell he didn't actually want to kill Gondor. And then him actually helping Matthew, like, it just makes N still feel like, okay, no, that is still Noah in there. Like, I feel like they did that so well with him.
Doesn't he straight up say that? Doesn't he say something like killing Gondor was like
It was his
another
choice.
tick on his line of endless regrets or something? Or
Yeah.
yeah.
And he just doesn't, but like, M doesn't realize that because she shows up at the end. He just never tells her.
Right.
But like, I thought they did that very well because I keep thinking back, because you said chapter 5, and I always keep thinking about, aren't you going to send her off? It's like, what was such a crazy thing for this character to say? Yeah,
You gotta send her off. Yeah, with the oh my god, man. Oh, that bit was so good.
I think for me, I have 2. And they're both related to Xenoblade 2. So, when I first bought my Switch, I purchased Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. And I played it for 2 hours, and I absolutely hated it. And so I was sitting there, I'm like, man, I need something to play on my Switch now. And so I was asking around people, what should I get for my Switch? I don't know what's good on the Switch, yada, yada, yada. And people were saying, yo, if you want an RPG, get Xenoblade Chronicles 2. And this is like maybe a month after it just came out or something. And I was like, oh, but I've never played Xenoblade. So, like, will I have to play the first one? And everyone's like, no, you can play. You're good. So I go and buy Xenoblade 2. And I remember after the scene with Malos and Jin, after you get Pyra and all that, I was like, holy shit, this is absolutely insane. I'm going to fucking love this game. And then I play the entire game and I get to the scene where Rex realizes that Numa has to basically, like, he's not gonna see Pyra, Mithra, and Numa. He's not gonna see him ever again. And I remember Zeke delivers this one line. I don't remember what he says specifically, but I remember it having such an impact on me. I was streaming this too. This is an infamous stream moment for me in my chat. It was so impactful on me. I had to get off cam and I literally cried, bro. I literally this was the first, I think, game that was, or not the first, but one game in a long time that was emotionally impactful on me. That's the line. She's the girl you love. You got to accept her decision. That, bro.
You love her. You
I
gotta
was
let
like,
her go.
I was like, damn, man. This
That's what
game
being
is
an adult means.
fucking incredibly good. And I've been a massive Xenoblade fan ever since, and I'm so happy I had the privilege of playing it.
I just wish you didn't go off camera for that. I would have loved to watch that.
Yeah.
Man.
For me, I was thinking about this as you guys were talking, because like all three of these games at some point have made me cry, probably more than once in each of those games. All of the endings, a lot of the climaxes, etc., etc. But I think the moment that resonated with me the most was back in 2011, playing the first Xenoblade, going through all the Colony 9 stuff, going through Tephra Cave, making my way out, and getting onto the Bionis Lake for the first time, and just seeing Gao playing and hearing that music was absolutely unforgettable. And I think that, to me, was like, yeah, this is what this game is. This is what this 2B series is. And I think it was from that point where I was just in for good.
I have to ask, because I'm surprised we didn't bring this up at all. And you mentioned that initial moment of like hearing the music and walking onto Gower Plains. Were any of you involved with Operation Rainfall at all?
No.
No.
I heard
No.
about it, but then I
Okay.
never.
I
was
knew of
involved
it,
in
but I wasn't involved.
So Operation Rainfall, for people who don't know what we're talking about, was this campaign to get Nintendo to bring over to North America a bunch of games that were released in other territories, but that never were coming here.
Oh, okay. I remember this.
One was Xenoblade Chronicles. One was The Last
like, The
Story.
Last Story, yeah.
Yep, and the other one
And,
was
like,
Pandora's Tower.
Tower.
Yeah.
Yep. And there were like all these campaigns on forums, and this was also like the early days of Twitter as well. So people were, making hashtags like Operation Rainfall, bring this over. And, eventually all three of those games did make their way to North America. But Xenoblade, I remember like looking into the Rainfall stuff and tweeting about it and watching the trailer for Xenoblade from E3. I want to say this was 2000 and
Probably would have been like 8 or 9.
I think it would have been like no, because the Wii was 2006, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think it was like maybe 9. It might have been 9, but it was back when Xenoblade was still called Monado, the Blade of the End or something. It wasn't
beginning of the
called
world.
Xenoblade.
Monado, beginning of the world.
Thank you, Monado, beginning of the world, right? And I remember that initial trailer, seeing the first shots of Shulk and Gower Plains and hearing some of the music and being like, man, this is something really special. I want to see this game come out. And then finding out that the game was dubbed in English and that we weren't going to get it, and that it was a first-party Nintendo title. And I remember losing it, being like, why on earth are they not bringing this over? And then finally the game coming over, it being such a big deal, you could only get the physical version like at GameStop. It was the only place that you could buy it, or you could order it online, and it was so expensive to get. And then
GameStop held like half the stock because they knew
exactly
they could hold it and get more money later.
Exactly. And then, eventually seeing what this series became upon, not only them making 2, but then like re-releasing the original Xenoblade Chronicles on 3DS, re-releasing it on Virtual Console for Wii U, so then everyone had access to it, and then made those, original prices for the Xenoblade plummet that were on Wii because people would just get it on their Wii U, and it's really just amazing to see like where this series that North America almost didn't even get, to see it become what it has now, being such a staple for Nintendo. Really, like, if you're talking about in terms of sales, it's on the level of Metroid. Like, Xenoblade is on that tier alongside Metroid and some of those other, like, really big name first-party Nintendo series now. And it's got its diehard fans, but also little by little with each new game, as we saw, like, with the sales of 3, like, there are more people getting into it. And I think the rise of streaming and, people having their favorite content creators play through the game and seeing the love and support that's there for it, I only think the series is going to get bigger from here on out. And I think it is a testament to not only, like, the fans of this franchise, but also the love and care that Monolith Soft puts into each of these games. It's really unlike anything else, and Nintendo is so lucky to have them.
Yeah. Like Bandai Namco letting them go and all that stuff. Like, this company has been doing so much. Like, I can't imagine being the companies that, like, Square Enix had them originally. Not all of them, but they had part of it originally. Like, and they all just let them go, and now they're out here doing all of this work for Nintendo, and it's crazy.
Literally, I know, the blood, sweat, and tears of Nintendo right now. Yeah, and like you said, they not only all of that, but they also gave the salary raise for their employees after the success of 3. It's just, they can do no wrong, man. I love them. And the music, like, their taste in
I'm gonna
music
cry
is
again.
superb, bro.
God damn.
Their taste in music is truly superb.
Oh, dude.
Like,
I said this earlier today. I think Xenoblade, the Xenoblade series is a top 3 soundtrack out of every game series to ever exist. It is, there are very small amounts of songs that just absolutely are not good, but there's too many bangers from the series that, like, you can't deny the impact and the genius of the series music. Like, ranging from 3 to 1 to X, like, it's
Steven, yeah, I was gonna say, with X and Sawano, and God,
it's too good. You can't deny it.
Even like X, like, I have my gripes with X, but like Black Tar, I think is such a sick song.
Such a good song, man.
I love Xenoblade.
Same.
All of us on this call, I think, do. I think we're all eagerly awaiting whatever Monolith Soft's going to do next. Yeah. Well, if you've been listening to this and you have not played Future Redeemed yet, in the words of the former president of Nintendo, Reggie Fils-Aimé, what is wrong with you? Go play it right now. It is available. It's like 10 to 15 hours, 20 hours, really. If you want to 100% it, it's going to be a little longer, but go play it right now. And wait, what do you mean?
I was going to say, if you haven't played it, your future awaits, because that is the title of the credits theme.
Okay, well, there you go. Okay, I could have said that. I was just saying what's wrong with you, though, because that's it's true. Fair. What's wrong with you?
Yeah,
go play Xenoblade.
What is wrong with you?
Yeah,
Be better.
Be better. There you go. We will be back next Monday with our first Japan time back post-launch of Tears of the Kingdom. But thank you all for being here. Thank you for joining us. And until next time, we will talk to you guys later. And as Coast said, your future awaits.